What's going on YouTube? JT Reborn here, and welcome back to another edition of my DC comic book reviews. And in this we're going to talk about Batman and Robin issue number 14. This one is written by Phillip Kennedy Johnson with art by Javier Fernandez. This is the start to a new era of this book. So you notice the all-in thing. So that's where all right, new stuff, new creative teams, new everything for the book. So this is the first one by Phillip Kennedy Johnson. Joshua Williamson is no longer in charge of writing Damian Wayne, which I know some people will be thankful for and others will be concerned because, well, when it comes to Damian's character, there's a lot of back and forth about what people want to see. But Phillip Kennedy Johnson is a good writer. We're going to have to wait and see what he does with the storyline. There's things I liked about this issue, and there's other things that was kind of left me a little like, I'm not so sure about that. But I kind of appreciated more upon like a second reread through as opposed to just the first time. Maybe I just had really high expectations. And again, this is only issue 1 of new creative. Sometimes you just kind of have to wait and let the story just kind of play out a little bit more before you can really fully judge, unless the first issue is just downright so terrible, then it just kind of kills it all for you. So, but then there's also some issues where the first issue just comes right out the gate swinging and it's awesome. Like I read Absolute Batman as well as this one, and I thought that first issue was great. But we'll talk about Absolute Batman later on. So the first story arc by PKJ is going to center around this new villain known as Memento. I guess Damian's going to try and figure out who he is outside of being Robin. There is the concern of whenever a new writer takes over for writing for Damian, that they kind of immediately forget all the work that the previous writer had done. And there definitely is a slight difference in the dynamic between Bruce and Damian for what we saw under Williamson versus what we see in here. Like Bruce and Damian are definitely more on the same wavelength under Williamson, maybe because he kind of built up to that point. Damian felt a little bit more mature. He definitely comes across like he's just not really the happiest of places to kind of start this arc, which is interesting compared to where we just kind of left them off. I mean, they still work efficient as a unit, but Damian is trying to, I guess, figure out who he is outside of the cape and cowl. So there's some good action to start the issue. He's having fun as Robin. He absolutely does not want to do anything other than just, he does his schooling stuff, I'm sure, but he'd rather just be out doing Batman and Robin stuff rather than going to some charity fundraiser, which they go later on. And he's even when he draws his comic books, there's no Damian Wayne or any of his self-insert fan fiction he's writing right now. He's just writing Robin adventures. So there is one interesting moment too where Damian finds a chessboard, but Bruce tells him not to touch the board because this is a game for him and Ra's al Ghul. But Ra's al Ghul is dead, but Bruce still doesn't want him to touch the board, which makes you that kind of adds something kind of interesting with the relationship there. So Damian and Bruce head to this charity event for Sacred Heart medical stuff, and Damian is drawn to be looking a little bit younger than he was under Williamson. I don't know if that's intentional. Are we trying to make him look a little bit more kiddish, which is something that we kind of see in the issue. Damian, while Bruce is there with this doctor kind of talking to somebody who knew his father, Damian is sent to the kids' table, and you have this kid here who's just constantly talking, but really happy-go-lucky. But why is this high schooler put on this child's table? Shouldn't he be with kind of older people, or unless it's just kind of one of those things because he doesn't really look it. But then again, like I said, there's a little bit of inconsistency with Damian. Sometimes he's drawn older, sometimes he's drawn younger, but they're throwing him at the kids' table, and I could understand this more if he wasn't in high school, but why is he there with the little children? So maybe it's just there to kind of irritate him, or maybe this is just the underage table. I'd accept that a little bit more. He goes to find Bruce at one point, and he's like, how's the kids' table? Having fun there? And he's hilarious. How long do we have to stay? Because he's a little bit annoyed. He doesn't want to be here. He does meet this Dr. Malik Bashar. Damian comes across rather kind of cold to him, and I just feel that's one aspect of it. I like a little bit more sass in him that we haven't really gotten under Williamson in quite a while. But there's also kind of the aspect where it's he was supposed to have matured a little bit. We don't need him to be constantly complaining and that too. There's a fine balancing act, because the sass is part of what makes Damian Damian, but you also don't want to kind of disregard that he has matured. There are instances where his sass really works, and then there's other times where it's he should be a little bit more mature right now. We just saw him under various different stressful situations learn how to kind of control himself and even put on a public facade. But there is one bit here where Damian is talking to this Dr. Malik guy, and he's oh, your grandfather was a father to me. And Damian brings up, I never knew him, but it seems to have worked out better for you than the rest of us. And Bruce kind of like gives him this little scowl, like ready to apologize. But you also do have to factor in, Damian has some resentment towards the Thomas Wayne that he met. Because keep in mind, like that ultimately led to Alfred's death, which has been a major implication on his livelihood too. So he definitely doesn't have very fond thoughts of Thomas Wayne, at least the version he knows. So it's like, it's understandable why we kind of react like that, but he didn't have to be cold to this doctor right here. It was just being nice to him. That's an aspect where I'm like, look, the character should have matured a little bit more to where he's not acting like this jerky, at least in this instance. To villains in that and other situations I can understand, but he didn't have to be so cold to this guy. That's an instance where I feel, I don't know if you call it regression, but again, some characters have bad days, but that's an instance where I'm like, come on, he should be a little bit more mature right there. So then Bruce goes and investigates something. Damian's at this kid's table. He does make a child cry at one point too, which, you know, there's a little humor there, but at the same time, like, he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean, like, he's just kind of irritated right now, but at least it wasn't like the full-blown like brattiness per se, but like even to like, oh man, like even he was just like, all right, I kind of acted a little bit cruel. So he's kind of acknowledging things. So there's a little bit back and forth there. Then some villains kind of take charge of this thing. Then we see this character Memento. I've heard that this is going to be influenced a little bit by the doom that came to Gotham, and there's this kind of supernatural presence with this Memento character, and Bruce is kind of looking a little bit fearful in some images, and then like the party is kind of under attack and we're kind of left ambiguous, but Memento could be a very interesting villain. So I like some of the artwork with him. I like the presence in there. I like the action at the beginning. I'm a little cautious when it comes to how Damian is written in this thing, but again, I have like a basis in like several like instances where every time a new writer takes over, they kind of forget Damian's development. And here the dynamic between Bruce and Damian, it's not as much of a well-oiled machine as it was under Williamson, I should say, after what we just got. Here there's a little bit of, I guess, tension kind of, but not like extreme like it was after the fall during the Teen Titans stuff. So like Damian still listens to his dad, but he clearly just wants to kind of be Robin right now. Like all this other stuff is kind of boring to him. In school kind of was the same way for him, but he kind of learned to like it with meeting different people. So I don't know if he's going to be spending time at school or even doing soccer or any of the things that he just got done, or if this is just going to be a pure detective story, which I'm all for. Like this is like an interesting issue to kind of start out. Like there's some good things to kind of follow. I kind of was curious about the whole Roz moment with the chess game and how Bruce kind of refuses to kind of let it go, even though Roz is dead. That's something that maybe he kind of has this feeling that Roz will be alive, and maybe that kind of plays into factor of things later on. So, but yeah, I still like the issue overall. I liked it more upon the second reading. A few things I'm kind of, you know, iffy hesitant on. It's nice to have a little bit more sass sometimes with Damian, because like I said, that's one of his defining characteristics, is that bit of sass that he has. But there's still kind of that concern that we're going to get like severe character regression, and just kind of like forget his maturity at times. Like there's instances where I kind of get it and it kind of works, and there's other times where it's like, maybe you should have kind of held back on that, because like I don't feel like the character we just saw mature would act in that situation. So, but again, new creative team. It's only issue 1. Let's see how the rest of the story plays out, and I'm excited to see where it goes from here. So good aspects, good things. For those who are missing a little bit of sass with Damian, you're kind of getting it back here a little bit more. For those who kind of wanted to be a little bit more mature and a little bit less, I guess, whiny, you may not be as happy with it. So, but it's mixed to positive for me. Not a big home run like I was kind of hoping with the first issue. But again, this is the first issue. Let's wait and see how the story unfolds. PKJ is a good writer, and I'm excited to see what he does with the rest of the title. So, what did you think of Batman and Robin issue 14? Post your comments down below. Be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to your channel for more content, hit the bell for notifications, all that fun stuff. And I will see you all in the next video. That'll be either DC versus Vampires or Absolute Batman. So take care now. Bye-bye then.